let's talk about the Saudis for a minute. The elephant under the Western carpet. I mean, I understand that in the aftermath of the oil crisis in the 1970s, one of the things that dictated American foreign policy was the desire to maintain stable oil production, and I can understand that, although I think it was short-sighted. I can see the logic in that. But it's very difficult for me to see that in any possible way the Saudis can be regarded as true allies of the West. And so I don't understand why we have the relationship that we do have with the Saudis, given, first of all, that we're pumping literally trillions of dollars about every decade into their economy, and then given that they practice a particularly pernicious form of I would say, viciously militant Islam, and second, or third, I guess that is that they're pumping out propaganda that pushes this Wahhabi viewpoint in massive doses everywhere in the world. I mean, I don't understand, and maybe this is also part of your perplexity with regards to Western attitudes towards the complex problem of Islam. I don't understand why the West doesn't do more to put a stop to that. And so what are your thoughts about that? How does it look to you?
I'm perplexed. I believe that the Saudis have put the United States and other Westerners under their spell, and someone has to come along and break that spell. I mean, I agree with everything you said. Saudi Arabia has used and has indulged and accommodated the clergy, not only to establish this Wahhabi doctrine, which is pure Medina legacy. Saudi Arabia is a theocracy.
Yep.
It's pure Medina, not only inside the borders of Saudi Arabia, but across the entire world.
Yep.
And now I think we, the United States and other countries, need to demand from the Saudi royal family, because they are the ones who are the political, at least the political individuals that we deal with, and we sit across from the table, to demand and say, you know, we need a divorce between the House of Al Saud and the House of Al Wahhab, because these clergy people are really destroying the planet. You have to think through what these people have done in South Asia, in Africa, all over the world. It's the beauty of theocracy like Saudi Arabia to commit a part of its wealth to the spread of Islam,
yes,
and to the strengthening of Islam. That's pure dawah. That is through institutions, and this is their foreign policy. We probably could refer that to a soft power. That's where the soft power goes. But that, if you look at what is happening, all these terrorist activities across the world, people wanting Sharia back, all of this, Saudi Arabia is behind it. And I think it's time that we wait for that. Yeah.
Okay, so let me run a theory by you. It's kind of a twofold theory. So one is that there's a paternalistic attitude in the West towards the Saudis that stems from perhaps events that were as far back as 100 years ago. And the paternalistic aspect is to underestimate them as enemies, right? Because you say, well, we could say, well, we need the oil and we're going to stabilize it, and maybe we'd rather not have chaos in Saudi Arabia, and so a known dictator is better than unknown chaos. And I mean, we saw some proof of that perhaps in what happened with Libya. But so the idea would be, there's nothing sufficiently dangerous about the Saudis to justify us destabilizing their regime, especially when we're particularly dependent on their oil. And then underneath that would be an underestimation of the danger of ideas, and also especially when ideas are combined with money. It's something like that. So because the Saudis, in some sense, I think, are fighting what you might regard as a stealth war against the West. And they're doing it by convincing upcoming generations of the rightness of their particular viewpoint. And so they're in it for the long haul in some sense. And I think we're radically underestimating the danger of that. And
they're waging an ideological war, and we're not.
Yeah,
they're waging an ideological war, we're not. I mean, you have to think of when the Soviet Union was around, if we hadn't done anything in response, if we had only viewed that in economic terms or in military terms. And that is our relationship with not just Saudi Arabia. There's Qatar, there's Kuwait, there's even Iran. You know, these countries are waging an ideological war, and we are not, because here in the States they believe, well, it's religion, and religion is protected, and, you know, we don't talk about religion.